Sup, nerds? I'm Aaron.
I'm Wes.
I'm Tom.
We are growing trees in the desert.
So Ishtar is mostly a tile placement game. Relatively straightforward. You can learn the rules in like 4 minutes, and I feel like a broken record saying this type of thing again, but easy to learn, hard to master, because you draft tiles.
I don't know if it's hard to master,
But there's more than just Carcassonne. You know what I mean?
It's easy to learn, but there's significant strategy to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, every level has a little twist. So you don't just pick up a tile. Imagine comparing this to Carcassonne. Well, so we draw a tile from a bag. Well, you draft
That's
a
actually
tile
a pretty good comparison in terms of depth and complexity and easy to teach, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah, so if you were to list out each step of Carcassonne or each area or whatever, it has a couple extra twists in there. Mm-hmm. So again, you just draw a tile from the bag. Well, no, you're going to draft your tile from this rondelle type of thing where you can spend some gems to move this water can more if you want to get those other tiles. It's the shape and the distribution of the green things
gardens,
and the number of flowers on the green thing,
mm-hmm.
And then where you place it matters, and how you place it matters, and how you connect groups together, and how you can't connect certain groups together, and whatever you cover up, you get. We've gotten a little far away from Carcassonne at this point, but you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, so basically you've got all these different fountains on the board, and you are planting gardens leading off of them. Mm-hmm. Within each garden, there are flower beds, so the gardens are just connected tiles. Flower beds are connected groups of the dark green foliage with the flowers in it. And then within the flower beds, there's the number of spots that it takes up and also the number of flowers in that bed. And that all counts for different scoring or kind of area control.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, you could say, because you're fiting over who controls the fountain.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a
But there's no
control.
fighting back.
Yeah, you can't lose territory after you gain it, really. Yeah.
Yeah, the only way you can kind of do that is if you place a garden out there, but you don't have your guy to claim it, and then somebody places next to it and claims it, because there can only be one of these little farmer dudes in every flower bed. So if you do put a tile out there that's not connected to a flower bed, somebody else could claim it or place a tile that connects it to their flower bed. So they're kind of taking back that area. That's the only way you can kind of fight over that. And then you're going back and forth trying to have the biggest flower bed connected to each of the fountains, and that's how you win the point. So there is it is a little bit of it. It's just not completely okay, I'm going to fight you, I take that area, then you're going to fight me and take it back, and I'm going to fight you. There's no...
But it's not there's this area and this area, because there's the fountains, and it's just whoever has the biggest bed connected to that fountain. But then there's also just the size of you're spreading out and saying I'm occupying this much. And towards the end of the game, it almost has that feel of polyomino games almost, where how can I get these obviously aren't polyominoes, they're all three circles and different
triominoes.
But they're close enough. I mean, there's only 3 different configurations.
But it is a fact that there's specific ways you can put them, and because you can't connect gardens. You can't connect 2 fountains with one garden, so it gets really tricky. How can I place this so that I can cover up these spots and get gems to spend later without connecting my garden to his garden?
Yeah, and there's the tablet stones that you can't place on top of, so you have to build around them, and sometimes that can be a hindrance too, because you're oh, this would be perfect if that wasn't there. So there's board state that affects the way you're doing it. And, if you're trying to get certain gems, you're oh, I could place it here, but I'm going to get no gems. I'd rather place it on this side of the board to get at least 1 gem so that I can use it later.
So, he's talking about gems. As you place these tiles out, you pick up whatever you cover up, which are these gems. So you can either spend to build trees, which are points, or you can use them for, I don't remember what that's called, these special skills on your player board that are actually tiny little tech trees, 2-step tech trees. The bottom row is all special abilities and bonuses that you get, and then the top is all scoring, endgame scoring points. And I, early on, was you know what? What if I just did these? What if I never put a guy out there and just, because there's one where you get 7 points for every guy you don't put out there, and I could gather 4 guys. So I'm okay, so I could get 28 points right there. And then there's one where you get points for every gem you have left over. And there are 3 points for every purple. And there was a lot of purples out there. Ultimately, not a great strategy.
It was close.
Well, because I also did abandon it. I was like, I'm going to put no guys out there. And then there was one like I kept inadvertently giving these guys points by placing stuff out there to try and get the gems, and then being like, oh, well, now they can take
because you have to place a tile every turn.
And you have to place it adjacent to. You have to, like, grow from a single clump. So I'm, like, trying to place it in a way that I'm not putting the the flowers together, so it's, like, leaving gaps. But that isn't as beneficial as if I were to put it there and then put my dude on there, so then he can't come and try and connect it later in a funky way. And I did ultimately abandon it because there was one fountain left. I'm like, I don't want them to have every single fountain. And I was like, well, that fountain is 4, and this tile I'm about to place is 3. So that's 7 right there. So at least throw that guy down there just because. But at the end of the game, I still came in last, but it was Aaron had 83, Wes had 79, and I had 68. I had 54 points just from these endgame scoring things. And I was like, that is way more points than I deserve.
Yeah, it just goes to show that, like, there are a lot of points on this board potentially.
But also, like, there's a lot of different ways to play. So, like, completely abandoning putting guys out there in the tile placement thing, you shouldn't do. You shouldn't completely abandon it. But if you want to focus on some of these things up here and nail out a bunch of points from that, that's a big deal. Like, Aaron winning this 8 over here was good, but if you weren't fighting him so much and you just left that alone, or if you maybe blocked him a little bit more, but, like, weren't trying to win that per se, maybe you would have done better if you had owned more of the 6-point ones. You know what I mean? Took both 6-point ones. Yeah. There's a lot of... It's not exactly a surefire winning strategy. With one other exception that I was thinking... Not 100% certain if this is a negative or not. But it doesn't... There's no first player, like... Disadvantage. And there was, like... Aaron was able to, on his very first turn, like, okay, I'm going to take this tile, and you get to choose which tile you start with. You can take this tile, put it right here next to the white. I get white gems when I do that, which are the rarer gems, and I get to put this guy down there. Like, it was just a very optimal first turn, and I was like, so, and again, we haven't played the game enough to know that balance. You know, I'm not...
Because the whites are rarer, so they're better for trees. But if you're going for, like, the purple gem thing, then it's not really a benefit to get a white gem. Like, you'd want to get something really more purple. And if you're
spending gems to unlock skills, it doesn't matter what color they are.
Well, I'm just saying it seems like it's possible that there's an optimal first turn strategy that you could get just because you happen to go first.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if there was some kind of thing to counteract that, but it doesn't come up in every game, so I don't know.
I really do like the spatial, like, awareness you have to have when you're placing things, because you can place one of these tiles down in a way that you're like, okay, I'm gonna just get these gems, but if you just turn it like a little bit, you might be setting yourself up to score more points with, like, the way the gardens are, because I mean this one has one garden on it, so, like, there's 3 different possibilities of, like, you can connect it yourself or not. But obviously you want to connect it yourself if you can, but if you're trying to get gems, maybe you're going to place it over somewhere and keep it away from people. And towards the end of the game, it gets really tight. There's a bunch of gems out here that we couldn't get to because if you were to place anything there, it would connect this fountain to this fountain. So it's just they're dead gems that nobody can ever get.
Yeah, it does seem like one of those games that with, like, tile placement. At first, you're just like, how can I connect my stuff and get the most gems? That's all you care about.
Yeah.
And then, like, the last, like, third of the game, the board, like, all of a sudden, like, now it's super tight. It's like, I have to sit here and be like, I could put it here. No, I couldn't put it there. I could put it here. I wouldn't get any gems, though. I could put it here and connect those, and I'd get 2 more flowers. But if I put it over here, and so you have to, like, really start, like, kind of, like, min-maxing every tile, which is cool that there's at first the explosion of just your flowers are growing, and then all of a sudden it gets tight and you're really fighting for space.
And I do want to say that probably is my biggest complaint with the game is it is very tile placement-y. Tile placement is a big factor in the game of which tile should I place where and in what orientation. And it's just because tile placements in general aren't my favorite mechanic. That's not really my jam. I mean, I overall did enjoy the game. I thought it's a very well-designed game. It is fun. I would play it again. I would definitely pick a different strategy again. But just by the very nature of tile placement being such a huge component of the game, for me, it's I don't know. It's just not gonna. It's never gonna be in my top 10. It's not my type of jam, but would play it. You know.
I think my negative at first, because we played this game at Gen Con too.
Yeah.
And when you're first learning the game, like the different things that the flower beds can do can be a little tricky because you're like, okay, well, you've got the garden, which is the entire connected of tiles, and that has to only connect to one fountain. You also have individual flower beds within that garden that are just groups of flowers that aren't connected to the other groups. And you can have a gardener in each of those. But like, if we have one garden and there's 2 flower beds, and I've got a gardener in one and Aaron has a gardener in the other, we can't do anything that will connect those flower beds. Even though the garden is connected, the flower beds can't be connected. And then you can't connect 2 gardens that are off 2 different fountains, but you can connect 2 gardens that are both branching off the same fountain. So it's one of those things that like, it leads to a lot of like interesting dilemmas in the game and part of the really tightness. And it's one of the things that I overall like. But trying to explain that to a new player, especially like a novice gamer, it's going to take a few times of them being like, can I do this? No, I can't. Can I do this? Nope.
You have the tile overlays that add a little more complexity to it because there's 2 skills that you can unlock that give you this 2 space and this 1 space tile that you place on top of 2 grass spaces, and it can help you connect the garden. So it makes it a little more complex.
Piggybacking off of what you were saying is that the placement and the clumping of the different gardens, whatever, the connecting groups and all that, is a bit fiddly to get at first. Once you get it, but it is a little bit fiddly. The other thing that I didn't love is the fact that actions are on the tiles. Like you said, I mean, there's really only 2 actions. It's place a dude or unlock a skill. And the question mark is just a wild. You can do either of those.
But some tiles don't have either.
Yeah, and so sometimes I'm like, I really need to do... I have the gems. I can do it. But like, even if I spend gems to move around, like, it's just... The action just isn't out there for me. Added a little bit more to that randomness of like, you know, which tiles you're gonna get is like kind of screwing your strategy.
There is a balance of like, this one only has 1 flower bed space on it and no action, but it's a 4 flowers. So it's 4 points in your bed, where this one has no action, 3 flowers, and 3 flower bed spaces. So you're increasing the area for fountain control.
The tiles themselves are balanced, but it's just a little frustrating. Like, I really want to do this thing, but I have to pick up the thing to do that action.
You're limited to what you can do in your turn by what action is available. It's not true like you pick your action.
I mean, like it's like you can buy trees anytime, which is good. Could you imagine if trees were on there too? Like that would be a little, and other. This is the most nitpickiest of complaints, but the fact that all these abilities on here is a tiny little tech tree. You have to get the bottom one before you can get the top one. I was kept being like, I really want to get this 7.1, but I don't like. You know what I mean? I don't need the thing below it, so I don't want to waste the time to get like, you know, if I would rather those pick any of them. But again, maybe they play tested it more to be like, yeah, if you can just buy all of the end game scoring ones, everybody's going to do that. Just have tons and tons of points. Maybe, but I don't know. Maybe it would be cool if there was like a one-time thing that you could break that rule. Like maybe these trees had abilities. Ooh.
Expansion.
Hey-o!
I really enjoyed this game. Like I said, the tile placement was like a puzzle that I had to solve, and I just kept like, I would sit there and like, okay, hopefully they don't, you know, use their gems to take the tile I want, because if they don't, you know, bump forward, I can get this one tile, then I can place it here, but if they do, okay, I need to have a backup strategy. So there's a lot of like, you could kind of plan what you're going to do depending on, hopefully they don't take your tile. There's a lot of strategy in just, you know, what gems you take. You know, if you're trying to block, you know, people from... At a point when he was collecting all the purple ones, I was like, well, I could get a purple and a white, or I could get 2 purples. I'm just going to go over here and take the 2 purples. Like, there's strategy all around. It's really fun. If you're looking for a game that is really tight and crunchy, I mean, as you could see, that he took a completely different strategy and was still close. I mean, there's probably a couple things he could have done here or there to make that strategy work. Which is really cool. Like, it's a completely different strategy than me making a huge garden and trying to lock down one thing.
Mm-hmm. And I'd probably call this like a Gateway Plus game, as long as your group is willing to like take an extra second to wrap your mind around how the different aspects of the gardening works. Mm-hmm. Like, once you get that, it's a really straightforward game. But that aspect is what makes me say Gateway Plus and not just pure Gateway.
Yeah.
Well, if any of what we were talking about in this video sounds interesting to you, we're going to have a purchase link for this game in the description box down below. get yourself a copy. I went real fast there.
And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to our
Smash
channel.
that like button. Become a
Throw us
Patreon.
a
Send us money
Patreon,
in the
buy us
mail,
a
do
coffee,
things.
and subscribe to our channel so you'll
Should
never be bored.
Whoa.